I am the DX21, and this is Codename Codebreaker. Protect your neck because neck bet is about to catch wreck. Not hate talk, it's hawk talk, where conspiracy theories are proven true and sweet lies are destabilized by sour truth. With me, I have the 1804 core. First up, pushing a button, quick to push a button, Knit Ross Sutton. It's early morning, so how you laying it down? Tell the people something.
Rise in excellence. I be Nitra, the one and only guardian of the North, flower of the South. Catch me on a good day. I might not curse you out. Yeah, we in here about to break these codes live from NYC. Let's hear from the voice of God.
Loa, she kicked it to you. What's the higher vibration of the Loa?
Well, definitely no low blows, strictly high blows. So, as always,
Headshots.
thank Jah, I feel blessed. I just another on the come up from the west, aka Westeros, aka Western Indies, aka Western India, aka the Caribbean. Holla.
All right, that's a big code break, and I think we had touched on that in one of our previous episodes. We'll get back into that because more importantly is that the natural, not national, the natural inquirer, the empire inspirer, Chloe Fontaine, the other half of the 1804 core, is here to bring it raw and to ask a few questions that you never thought of before. Chloe, you there?
Hey, ça passe?
Mapule?
Na bule piti piti.
Ai, eu gone.
Ay, football.
And just to let everybody listening know, this is not by accident that everything is assigned the way it is and aligned the way it is. There is a reason why we have the 1804 core up in here, because there's a mission that has been ongoing, continuing since the beginning of time, and will continue until time immortal. But that's too heavy for y'all. Y'all not ready for that as of yet. We got to get y'all into basic code breaking before we can go into code breaking on the 4,000 and 5,000 level, right?
Absolutely.
So, what's going on with you, Chloe?
Trying to take it day by day. Yesterday, I was looking at preschools, and my mind was blown as to like how much money these people ask for per month for early education. I don't understand. I was looking at one. They were saying for 5 days a week for the month, it was almost $2,500. I was like, are they crazy? $2,500? What are they teaching these kids? Are they going to take the SAT or something? I don't understand.
So what's that? $10,000 a month?
10,000 a month.
No.
Crazy.
I was just like, I don't understand. I really do not. I was like, really? I was like, no, these people are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It's like, what are they teaching them there? They're 2 years old.
Well, I mean, it's a good racket, and I think that if you got your bona fides in order, you should launch your own. Yeah, I'm telling you, that's what the money, because no matter what.
The young ones how to rob people blind.
Yeah,
They must
for real.
live in Brooklyn.
Well, I'll tell you this
All the
much here.
teachers got one-bedroom apartments in Brooklyn, and they're trying to pay their rent and live. Living in New York is a luxury now.
Yeah.
Living in New York is a luxury.
I just want to know if there's a code behind going fruity for Cocoa Puffs.
No, I mean cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It was never going fruity for Cocoa Puffs. Stop trying to change the words around. And with that said, let's go into Soundboy. Soundboy is our segment where we break down the holy scriptures of today, known as the sounds. If we look at each artist as being a prophet, each album is a chapter in their book of their Bible, and each song is a verse, is a book, chapter. Yeah. So each one of these different artists, they're the prophets writing their books, just like the lesser prophets say, like Habakkuk or Haggai. One of them, and some major prophets like David, who wrote his psalms. And indeed, a psalm is a song. and it has proverbs in it if you look at it onto a different level. We had started talking about in one of our previous segments, Buju Banton's "Till I'm Laid to Rest." I said "Till I'm Laid to Breast," right? I guess I'm having a Freudian slip here. I want to be laid to breast. "Till I'm Laid to Rest," and specifically the lyric, "No longer will I expose my weakness. He who seeks knowledge begin with humbleness." And Loa was saying that it was based on a psalm. And I asked Loa if he could get the particulars on that psalm and bring it back, because we don't want to just say stuff. We don't want to just assume stuff. We don't want to believe. And even if we think, we want to know for sure. So were you able to get that information on what psalm "Till I Laid to Rest" was predicated upon?
I'm gonna be so honest. I could have sworn we have moved past that topic and was gonna be focusing on deportees this trip. But yes, if you would hold on for like about 2 minutes, I will get to the Lord Google Scribe and I will come back with your requested prayer information.
And so while you're finding that out, Nit, you didn't really have a chance to weigh in on this too tough. And because I think whatever reason, because it was meant to happen now, because everything happens in divine time, right? That's what happened. When you hear those lyrics, do you find them to be contradictory? No longer will I expose my weakness. He who seeks knowledge begins with humbleness. Because if you're no longer exposing your weakness, is he saying that he's already past that he has not began, that he's already gone on? Because he says right after "no longer will I expose my weakness, he who seeks knowledge begins with humbleness." Is he saying that, I don't know, is humbleness weakness? Because some people say that being humble or having humility, you get humiliated often enough if you're humble or have humility towards the wrong person. They will humiliate you. How do you see exposing your weakness and beginning the seeking of knowledge with humbleness? Are they contradictory?
I don't find them contradictory. I find Buju a master of words and duality. Actually, we kill with kindness. So sometimes, and it's very much a proverb that when you're humble, you can go through a whole bunch of doors. So I think it's deep. I think it's deeper than just trying to say is it contradictory. I would be trying to find the balance in that. And the more you learn, the more humble you become, because you value this ankh right here, which is your life. So once you understand and start to learn, you become more humble because you want to value that ankh even more. So I think it's more duality than seeing the differences in the words. I really see and did meditation on Buju and that song in particular, because it has a lot of jewels in it. I see that it's actually more of duality. It's more of really look into the lyrics. It's balance, because the more you learn, the humbler you become, because you're in seek of knowledge, the illuminated one.
But what does that have to do with? I've always heard them belittle the meek as being weak. Now, I personally don't think the meek equates to being weak.
You're not weak. You're not weak, because the person who sees you as weak hasn't taken the time to understand why it is that you're meek and mild. And the humble will inherit the earth, only saying that I'm not going into battle just because you invited me. I don't need to go into battle every invitation. That's wisdom. So I'm going to appear weak to you, but I'm really like, I'm going to pick my battles. That's the ultimate wisdom.
Mm-hmm. So you don't see humbleness as being a weakness. So you can be humble and still not expose your weakness.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that, Jewel, in that you saw it as a duality, because I wasn't looking at it that way. Although that's what's funny, is that we know, but sometimes we don't know better. We know, but we're not applying it right then and there, because that, I guess, is an obvious kind of way of looking at it, because everything is a duality, considering that I have the Taijitu right on my wall. And for those, the Taijitu is what they commonly call the yin and yang symbol, for those of who might not know. I got the Taijitu on the wall, the ultimate expression of duality, and that didn't occur to me. and that particular line was put together in a duality segment. Loa, what's the situation?
Your query has brought back 17 results. I have picked the one that has most fit this show.
All right, so Google is feeling the bugle. Blow the horn.
Alrighty, daddy. So here we go. This is coming from the Jamaican Gleaner, and I think it was titled March 31st, 2019. I know we don't really date this show, but I'm showing you that like on how up
No,
to
that's
date
not
this is.
dating the show. That's dating the reference. We have to be specific when we use a reference. You're not dating our show. You are dating the reference.
All right, so basically to break it down in a nutshell, they say Buju and his soul style is basically marred off of Peter Tosh being that he was a discoverer of his style, but when it comes down to his singing style, and they did reference the song that you're talking about, Till I'm Laid to Rest, and others, but they say that Buju invokes African-derived religious practices in Jamaica, which incorporates the Bible and language of redemption, but this is promised in lands and also Rastafari's Ethiopia. So it's like I think a lot of his stuff is coming from like if not just the Christian religion itself, just the Ethiopian Orthodox Christian Bible.
That is a good bluff and not a specific reference, though. But I appreciate the effort. That is not a specific psalm that you're referring to. For instance, if I say something like that the Bible says that everything in this world is an illusion and things are not the way they seem, I could take you to Psalms 82, I think verse 5, to back up what I'm saying. And for those, just to show and prove, I think I have I don't know what version this is. This is a King James version. If we go to Psalms 82:5, because we always show and prove, we don't take anything on face value. Everything is subject to show and prove, must come out right and exact. If we go to Psalms 82:5, we will see that it says, "They know not, neither will they understand. They walked on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course." So if I'm giving a reference to a scripture that I'm referring to, I'm going to know the precise scripture. So in Psalms 82, it tells you that everything's an illusion. And right after that, it tells you, "I have said you are gods and all of your children are the most high, but you shall die like men and fall like one of the princes." Loa? Because Chloe actually has to weigh in on this before we move on.
Yeah, but I think you kind of nailed the butt in the head when you started the segment by saying that these sound boys are prophets. Maybe it's divine for them to just naturally flow that way, biblically and prophetically because of their groundings.
No, I'm not saying that they're the sound boys. I'm saying that the artists themselves are prophets. The sound boy is us navigating through this. The boy is us. We are the boy. We are directing people through these songs. They are the
But you see what I did there.
What did you do?
I mean, like for the listening audience, it's like when they hear me say sound boys and we're talking about Buju, they're gonna go, "Yeah, man, sound boy." Yeah.
All right, so you brought it back. But let's wrap this up. Chloe, do you have anything? Hold on, Nick wants to add on.
No, I didn't want to add on. I noticed here, this is my name in comedics.
Oh, so your name is on the book. That's beautiful.
Right. No, actually bringing it back to Buju. So in the fact that you have the yin and yang behind you, the fact that we're dealing with duality at all times, the fact of the matter is it's all in balance. Miss Fontaine?
Wrap it up for us.
Yes. Yes. No, I was asking if when he was saying that he wasn't going to expose his weakness, could that mean that he could still seek what he's trying to find? However, personally, whatever is weak to him, he's not going to expose that to the world.
Right. Absolutely.
That's definitely a good way of looking at it. That's one thing I like about us having different perspectives and different life experiences is that we're able to tackle it from different angles and to cover all bases and bring different viewpoints to it that different people in our listening audience can relate to. Listeners, if y'all have any feedback or anything y'all want to weigh in on as far as this is concerned, please hit us at our comments. Please hit us at our email, dx21presents@gmail.com. And let's keep it moving. Let's move to Codebreaker 101. It's important that we learn and know what the science of code breaking really entails. And in order for you to be an effective code breaker, you have to know your tools. The most important tool, and some debate about it, is the dictionary. Now, the reason why they debate it is because they're saying that, they're playing with language, but semantics is serious. It's important for you to know a word in all of its different usage, and there are tools out there, and that's the dictionary. One thing that I would suggest if you're using dictionaries is to not just have the current dictionary, because the usage of words change. It's also good to have older dictionaries, even if you have to go and dig for one. Dictionaries from like the late 19th century, the early 20th century. We are now in the 21st century. So basically, from the late 1800s, early 1900s, you get a totally different perspective on words if you have dictionaries from those times. Even if you have a dictionary from the 30s or 40s, like I do, you will have a different perspective of the language and see how words have changed. For instance, condescending at one time, when someone, nowadays, if you say someone is condescending, it means they're patronizing, that they're talking down to you. Well, at one time, condescending was actually something that was honorable. That was a person who was of high station who was actually speaking to you as if you had something beyond peasantry to you. So to be a condescending to someone was actually considered honorable at one time, but now it's considered foul. So, I mean, I just want to get your perspectives as far as that's concerned. The voice of God wants to chime in, but ladies first, I want to get the 1804 call before we go to the lower vibration. What do y'all think about the dictionary? I think that it's an essential part of code breaking, because in order for you to really break down any type of spell, you have to know what the words in that spell mean on a basic level. Of course, once you have the basic knowledge of it, you need to find the arcane and esoteric meanings and connotations and the denotations of those words. Nid, how do you see that?
The dictionary. It definitely breaks down the grammar, and an etymology class would not hurt at all. So with those two, pretty much could break a lot of codes.
So it's not just dictionary, but also studying etymology. Do you have any beefs with dictionaries? Some people, I remember I was recently at a gathering of learned people, and they were saying the dictionary does not dictate our meaning of words. In other words, we give our own meanings to words. Do you agree with that? I understand it in the streets and African American, oh, the fuck that African American, we're not African American. People of African descent, or as is being called ADOS people, we have our own way of defining words in reality. But slang has one thing and dictionary is another thing. If you're operating within the dominant code of society, I don't think the slang terms apply. But do you have any issues with the dictionary? The dictionary doesn't dictate to you.
We speak English, so again, it's a game. So you need to know the rules of the game to properly play the game. There's a sister on YouTube, Dr. Yafa Bay, Yaffa, Yafa Bay. She breaks down the glamour, the grammar, the spell we're under using these words. You can't play any game without understanding, fully grasping what it is. So the dictionary is, I don't feel like it dictates. That's you going way too far. It gives the rules, just like condescending. Your definition sounds like someone who feel you crazy. They'd be like, oh, hey, mighty one, how are you? Condescending. We're talking about the word condescending? Yes. No. Okay. So think about it. The degeneration of words. So you can use a word, even if they decommission the word, damn that, the word still has a meaning if you're using it, and you can break it down, show and prove what the word is. Condescending, if someone used to be condescending and that was someone who would fill you with praise, see where our speech has come to, where condescending is someone who is being less than truthful in their compliments towards you. See where we've come to. You can filter with dictionaries. So you having that older dictionary You can filter words. You can see when someone uses a certain word, where they are consciously in this dictionary code breaking game. Words are unlocking keys. So certain words I'm going to use, I don't have to explain because you're clear about them. Certain words you're going to have to go into the dictionary to find out the meaning, or I'm going to explain it to you, and then you'll go back and do your research on the meaning of the word. Dictionaries, etymology, good.
Even if you look at it from phonetic etymology, a condescending. It's like
Right.
a trickster is descending upon you. Chloe, how do you see
Right.
this?
You know, that's interesting because I never really gave much thought to words, the words in the dictionary changing their meaning like that over time. I just knew that over time there were words that people didn't use anymore. And, you know, so you might forget about those words. Because I remember when the president had used the word bigly, and a lot of people were getting on him saying that that wasn't a word. And someone found out that, yeah, that was a word that they used in the 1900s. We just don't use that anymore. And I know in the dictionary that they do add slangs and they add different words as time goes by, words that people use more, you know, commonly. But that's interesting that you might have a word that might change its meaning because of the way it's used. You know, so yeah, I never thought about that. And I never even thought about trying to find old dictionaries from the past, even like do a check and balance kind of thing to see like, oh, okay, this is what they used a word as this way in this time, and now this is how we use it. So that's pretty interesting.
Well, I mean, even certain websites, when you go to look at those dictionary online, some of them actually break down how the word has been used over time. And it's funny that even that we were using condescending as an example. We weren't necessarily speaking on condescending. But when you said bigly, it reminded me of a professor who was fired for using the word niggardly. Now, the word niggardly has nothing to do with the debated N word. Niggardly means somebody who is cheap, means someone who is frugal. So he used that word in its proper context and got fired because people were ignorant as to the meaning of the word, just
Like
because
a
it
lot of
sounds
you
like
niggas.
something else. Bring us out of here, Aloha. Wrap it up. Let us know what you think of it. I thought it was just disgusting that a person on the college campus, lost their job for using a word accurately that sounded like an inaccurate word.
Well, I never really had an interjection. I was just reminding you that you kind of stumbled upon a hidden code in your segment, the dictionary dictator.
All right, enlighten us, Loa. That's what's up. You're the voice of God. You're looking up from up high. You're higher than the hawk view. Go on.
I mean, going back to, I think we were talking about it maybe off air a couple of months ago, Fahrenheit 451. Going back to the way people use the internet these days, going back to how you can't correct a school child's English spelling. I'm pretty sure that pretty soon, under martial law, there will be no books. There will be, let's just put it this way, the dictionary might end up being replaced with Pictionary, and that might be truer than you might actually believe.
That is messed up, but I can see it, because basically that actually feeds right into our classic decoding. Let's put a pin in that. Matter of fact, let's skip out. We were going to go into Codebreaker conundrum, but I think that's a perfect segue into Latin versus lingua franca because you're talking about the Pictionary. I just also want to big up Dr. Yafa Bey, you just mentioned, because I just looked and saw the code breaking in glamour grammar. Because glamour, if we all know, glamoring within the so-called vampire world is casting a spell upon somebody. It's to glamour them. So you're saying the glamour grammar, that's that the grammar itself is casting a spell. I like that little expression there, the glamour grammar. So thank you. You have also expressed showed or put me on to the teachings of Dr. Yapa Bey in the past. So I guess that will be a code wizard, a wizard of wordplay that we will check into in the future as well. So let's jump right into classic decoding since Loa pointed onto a vibration about how we'll be moving from dictionaries to Pictionaries. That's actually things going full circle because in ancient times, there was the Latin versus the lingua franca, which is actually Latin itself, lingua franca. the clergy and the high priests and all the religious people who had the people under their spell and led their actions through the justifications of Christianity and their biblical doctrines, the Bible and the services were held in Latin. So in order for you to be a master of that cipher, you had to know Latin, whereas the lingua franca was the language of the common people, lingua franca, the common language. So if we're heading towards Pictionary, basically, and books are disappearing, books and reading might become the new Latin, and pictures will become the lingua franca. I can see that happening when us going full circle, that people will be literally ignorant masses and illiterate and pointing to pictures, not so much because they don't have the mental capacity, but because of this whole microwave generation, as they call the MTV now, me now, millennial generation, not wanting to work for shit and wanting to be able to push a button and everything happens to them, happen for them, then they're not going to be able to they're going to be willingly led like lambs to the slaughter of ignorance because they want things so easy. It takes effort to become a learned person. You have to actually study. Knowledge doesn't just flow, well, knowledge is everywhere, but you still have to grab it. I mean, that whole thing of you can lead them to water, but you can't make them drink. And even if you get them to drink, you can't make them swallow. How do y'all see it about pictures becoming the new lingua franca and actual language writing being literate being the new Latin, the language of the high people?
The way I see it under this new Pictionary regime, the Dr. Martin Luther King speech will be replaced with a meme or franchise that says, "We are now in a generation of people that know more and more about less and less until eventually they know everything about nothing."
You see, that's a twist on a proverb that I heard. They said that you're supposed to know something about everything and everything about something. Now you're saying they're knowing about everything about nothing.
It's a bleak future, but that's the future. Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. However, so there's systematic learning and there's symbolic learning. And Lord Omni is saying that they're going to be learning symbolically. That's how the world is learning now, through the church. So we got to get back into nature and go to systematic, where we know the system, where we see it happening. So you know how a plant grows, you know how an animal fends for itself, so that's the push. That's the push back against idiocracy. Once you follow nature, you can unlock a lot of codes because it's teaching you what life is, But yeah, that's our fight with these people. They're trying to, a lot of parents are homeschooling because they overstand. Kids are going to school going to college at 14, 15 years old. Look at all that time you're wasting. It's just, reclaiming your time and getting these timelines back. So hitting back into the time trajectory of Afrofuturism. But I digress. So take it back, Lord Omni.
I'm just saying, because
Omni, before you go in, I just want to say you pointed in some important point. There's a difference between dealing with primordial sounds and symbols, semiotics, and also the fact that, like you said, nature. You can't alter nature's codes. That's something that they have no dominion over, really. That's why they control us and control the masses, not necessarily us. They control the masses through the matrix of artificial things and synthetic. They cannot defeat us in nature. That is the whole code of Return of the Jedi? If that message is anything, is how do you defeat a highly technologically militarized advanced empire? You bring in little primitive bears and go back to nature. So that's a lesson in that, but that's a whole nother story. When they go high tech, you go low tech. But we have to, semiotics are one thing. Learning primordial signs, learning the archetypes and those signs and symbols that existed from the beginning of the time are one thing. But in Pictionaries and what they emphasize, I think that it will be a lower, not lower, a lower vibration that they use. They won't be giving them primordial signs and archetypes. I think that they'll be manipulating them through low frequency synthetic approximations of ancient symbols, which is why it's important, even more so, as you said, for us to clock nature, because that's something that they can only alter but so much before it reasserts itself.
I have a question. If you're going to change all the literature with pictures and everything, what's the main reason for that? What's the purpose?
Hide the true meaning of the word, because what they're trying to do is dumb down the people. So as Desun said, yes, it takes work to learn. It takes, because the brain is a muscle. You got to flex it. So now you got these kids in front of video games not using that flexor when it comes to trying to be discerning about information that's being passed in front of them. Pretty much. So we're fighting a battle of know it, as opposed to somebody showing you the picture of it and telling you what it is, because they could tell you anything. So you need to know it for yourself. Do your own research.
Okay.
Not only that, but these video games are still educating. They're still programming. They are passively.
The thing is the program. Somebody else programming you. You need to be programming yourself.
Exactly. It's a passive education. If you look at video games, role-playing games, RPG, massive multiplayer online RPGs where they basically have recreated virtual worlds and you can be anything in these worlds, there's a passive education and programming going on. For instance, one game like Fable, it has you can become anything as you eat. You have your selections of good foods and bad foods, and as you eat, you become fat, sloppy, and ugly. If you eat bad, and if you eat good, and also you get horns and points for these.
You don't need a video game for that. That's just mimicking life.
Exactly, but on the same token,
so be in reality, IRL. Forget a game, because what it is, once again, is taking your time. That's the only commodity here that is not rechargeable. So you have to know you're at war and you ain't got time to be doing that. Lord Omni, come in with the something.
No, I was just giving you congratulations on cracking that code, that a lot of these things that they say are here to educate us are really taking the most precious resource that we can't mimic or get back, which is time. Time spent is time lost.
The point I'm making here is that not so much as a time waster, which is obvious, that's true. It depends on some of them are basically, yes, just an outright waste of time. But the point I was making is that you're subliminally being programmed in these. You're subliminally being cultured. And that's one reason why even when you have selector options like YouTube, they're forcing me to buy the premium service. Why? Because I'll be listening to something that is highly meditative, dealing with high frequencies, and then they'll drop a commercial in this pure fuckery. Right in when I'm in a deep meditative state, they're going to throw this damn commercial in. So I understand what they're doing. So in order for me to
want you to pay for the convenience of not having those commercials interrupt your videos.
Yeah, and I was talking with Loa about this, and I was like, if they deal with algorithms, shouldn't they be putting advertisements in my stuff that is more conducive to an enlightened mind? And he was like, no, they're going to put stuff in there that's opposite because they want you to buy the premium. So they want you to have an incentive not to have stuff. Why would they send you stuff that is conducive to your vibration? They want to irritate you. So the algorithm is doing what it's supposed to do so that you will go and buy the premium. And that's basically what I'm going to do, because I definitely want to control what is coming to me. So I guess they won this one, and I'm going to get the premium.